This is episode 72 of Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews with interesting people. And in front of my mic today, I am so incredibly excited. I have the king of pot, who is now the king of hemp. This is Bruce Perlowin. Bruce, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome, Trish. It's a pleasure.
Well, I met you just this week because I'm doing a story on hemp, kind of a hemp 101 for people who have a lot of questions about it. And that's how I met you. And we started talking, and you informed me that you're the king of pot. And I was like, sure, that's hilarious. I Googled you yesterday. You really are the king of pot.
Yeah, there's a lot of strange things about my story that people don't believe, but it's all on the internet and it's all true.
It is all on the internet. So I had a lot of fun reading about you yesterday. In fact, I've told a lot of people, I'm interviewing the king of pot, and people would just do the what? Like a double take. Who? Listen to the podcast. It'll all be okay. All right, we are going to talk about king of pot. And king of pot meaning you were one of the biggest pot smugglers in what, the 60s?
In the late 60s and 70s, maybe up into the early 80s, I was the largest marijuana smuggler in West Coast history.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna talk about that, but we're gonna save it. It's gonna be like the main entree of this podcast. First, though, as I like to start all my conversations off with, where are you from originally?
I was born in Philadelphia, and when I was 2 years old, I moved to South Miami, and from there at 4, I moved to North Miami. So I grew up in North Miami.
So you were a Florida kid.
I'm a Florida kid, yes.
Okay, what was your childhood like, and what decade are we talking here?
Well, I was born in 51,
okay.
So it was the 60s. I grew up exactly in the middle of the post-war baby boom generation.
Yep.
And I grew up through, the 60s. The flower powers hit San Francisco, then New York, and hit Miami pretty closely 2 years later.
Right.
And, I went to Lovin's. We went to pot festivals. We smoked pot. Mm-hmm. The difference is that South Florida became the import for 99% of all marijuana coming into the United States. And I was an entrepreneur. At age 7, I started selling door-to-door shoe shining business, and then
really?
Cosmetic jewelry. Yeah, I love sales.
So let's back up a little bit. What did your parents do?
My dad owned furniture stores.
Okay.
So he was an entrepreneur, and his business model was he built and ran furniture stores.
Yeah. And mom?
She was an RN. She was a nurse. an RN. And
okay.
She worked in the hospital until all the kids got a little bit too old that she had to stay home and manage us.
How many kids? How many
4
siblings?
boys and 1 girl.
Whoa, big family.
Yeah.
Are you close with your siblings?
I work with all of them today.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow. How far is the age difference with you guys?
The 3 brothers was 18 months apart.
Wow.
My sister's the oldest.
Okay.
And then they were done having children, and then 10 years after me came the little one, Jed.
Wow.
So, and we, we're the older brothers, so our job is to tell him, to tease him. So we told him when he was born, there was a monkey and a human. They were twins, and the human died.
That's terrible. I don't mean to be gross, but your parents were busy for a while.
Yeah, they had their hands full with us.
Really? No kidding. Where are you in the lineup of the boys?
I'm the oldest son.
You're the oldest.
So I'm the boss.
You are the boss. Well, that makes a lot of sense, being this entrepreneur type kid. So you said at 7 you started going door to door?
Yeah, I was always wanted to make money, and be in business. So I went door to door shining shoes, 10 cents a shoe. And then my dad gave me this, what I thought was the most brilliant marketing concept on the planet, 3 for a quarter. 10 cents each or 3 for a quarter. So I did that, and I shined everybody's shoes in the whole neighborhood. And after that, business sort of ran out because how many shoes can you shine?
Right.
You used to throw your trash in the front yard in those days, and they'd pick it up. And our next door neighbor, they threw away a bunch of cosmetic jewelry samples.
Okay.
So I took the cosmetic jewelry samples, I put them on a board, and I went door to door selling them 10 cents each, 3 for a quarter. And where it really sunk in and changed my life. Now I'm 7 years old at this time.
Right.
I knew that there's 2 little girls that lived in this one house. So I go to the house, I knock at the door, and I say, I'm selling these 10 cents each, 3 for a quarter. And the little girl screams, "Ah! Susan! Susan!" Now I'm petrified.
Of course.
What did she scream about? Does she think I'm going to hurt her? Or, she goes, "Susan, Susan." So I'm total fear. And she says, "Come look at these. They're so beautiful. And they're only 10 cents each."
Aww.
And it went from total fear to total elation.
Yeah.
Because one, I made a big sale, and 2, I made a couple of young ladies very happy.
Very happy. And so did that feeling stick for you?
It stuck my whole life.
Really?
I'm a salesman in my heart. But the part of the sales is sell in a way that operates from the heart, that helps people or in somehow changes society.
Okay.
So that became to this day, I'm doing it on a pretty grand scale.
Yeah, you are. You are. We're going to talk about that. So growing up with siblings in Florida, were you guys beach kids?
No, we were the hippies. You had the
hippies.
greasers, the surfers, and then the hippies.
Okay, wait, who are the greasers?
The car guys.
Okay, gotcha. The hippies and the surfers.
Right.
I
The
love
surfers
it.
were cool. The greasers were sort of rednecks.
Okay.
But the surfers and the hippies smoked pot. So we were
Okay. So you're
part of
buddies.
the same tribe.
You're buddies. So you were a hippie.
Yes.
Your siblings hippies too?
Yes. The youngest one. The next one, the middle one, wasn't so much a hippie, but sort of. Yeah,
Okay.
we all,
Kind of grew up in that decade. I mean, yeah.
I had leather shops, with the fringed suede purses
Love it.
and jackets and
Love
peace
it.
symbols.
Of course. What kind of music were you into at this point?
I was into the 60s,
Right.
Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley,
Classic.
the Stones, the classic rock and roll.
Right.
But I always liked the ballads the best, like the Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Yeah.
Because they were great and they were telling a story about social change.
Absolutely.
Bob Dylan.
Very political music.
Yes,
Love
social
it.
movement, social change, because that was the establishment, and we didn't like the establishment. We didn't like anything about it.
No. In fact, you were fighting against.
Yes, we were totally anti-establishment.
Right.
We, our whole generation, we did our own drugs, we did our own clothes, our own hairstyle, long hair, our own new religions, new foods, health foods, organic gardening, back to land movement. It was all contrary to the established, way of straight America at the
Right.
time. We didn't want to be Ozzie and Harriet.
Exactly. So you go to high school in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You graduate.
Yeah.
What do you want to, at this point in life, are you pretty much sold on, I'm going to be a salesman when I grow up?
Well, first of all, I was a high-performance athlete in high school, which they had a real problem with it. I was undefeated weightlifting champion in the state of Florida for 4 years.
Look at you, Bruce.
Okay, I was the captain of the gymnastics team for 2 years, 11th and 12th grade, which is hard to be the captain in 11th grade. And so I was for 2 years. I took third in the teenage nationals in weightlifting in my weight division when I was 19. So here you have this champion high-performance athlete winning all these awards
Right.
with long hair that
Right.
they hated.
They hated it.
And they had to keep announcing Bruce Perlowin won the state championships, Bruce Perlowin won tri-state, and they didn't know what to do with me because, they wanted me to cut my hair, and I wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
And I wore a scarf around my jeans because that meant you're protesting the war. And then one day in homeroom, a joint fell out of that scarf when my coach said, "Bruce, please take that off. You think it's embarrassing me." So I took it off and I hung it on my side. And when I did that, the joint fell out.
Oh, no.
And they couldn't prove that it was me. But the next thing I'm looking around and I see the teacher at homeroom not at homeroom, at study hall, up at the door looking at with a puzzled look, looking at this joint, and I go, uh-oh. Next thing I know, Bruce Perlowin, please come to the assistant office's principal's
No
room.
way. You were kind of, with the long hair and being this athlete, that was kind of your, sticking it to him, kind of.
Yeah, but I wasn't really sticking it to them as much as I was being who I am.
Okay.
And that was important. I
For sure.
believe in what I believe in, and I'm not going to alter from that. And I believe in raising the consciousness of the planet. And that's what marijuana, to me, did. And that's why I became a big smuggler, because the original emphasis, the original drive was to raise the consciousness of the planet.
Well, let's get into that. You're smoking pot. So you have a dealer at this point in the game?
Yes.
I guess, when did you start? How did this happen? How does one start smuggling an illegal drug at this point?
I literally started selling nickel bags. So we would buy a pound. We'd buy a pound. We'd break them into nickel bags and dime bags and ounces. And if you bought an ounce, you got a free pack of rolling paper. And we put little sayings in all the dime bags, make love, not war, all the sayings of the 60s. And we literally sold nickel bags, dime bags, and ounces and pounds. Then we moved up to pounds. The demand was insatiable.
Yes.
And how I became a smuggler was a friend of mine brought a 50-pound bale to my house. I had gotten out of it. I had stopped.
You'd stopped smoking?
No, I was still smoking, but no, we didn't smoke. We would smoke like on weekends,
right.
Not every day, right? And
you have to be functional.
Yeah, and sometimes after class, but mostly it was a weekend thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same with LSD. You know, once in a while I do LSD and psilocybin and mescaline. I really liked those psychedelic trips back then. I wish I could do them again, and one day I will, but not while I'm working, you know,
right.
Because I may go move out to the forest and become a hermit and leave my business behind me before it's all finished.
And then you can start doing acid trips again.
Or ayahuasca,
right.
Or I think psilocybin's legal now in this state, or psilocybin or mescaline, one
I
of the
should
two.
know that, and I don't. I don't know.
It's been passed legal for studies.
You are correct, yes.
And we were also, the brand of hippie that I was, we consider ourselves like the intelligentista, the guys that studied and were entrepreneurs, and we weren't like dirt hippies. We didn't do speed, we didn't do heroin, you know, we didn't, you know, sleep in the streets. We were, you know, intellectuals.
I get it, yeah.
And we weren't the radical activists either. We were in between that. More an entrepreneurs than anything else.
Yeah, at this point, though, you know, you're a teenager, right? Smoking an illegal drug. In your mind, though, was it something that you were doing wrong, or did you just think this is why is this wrong?
Oh,
did
absolutely.
you question that?
Yeah, we did. We thought it was wrong. First of all, even LSD was legal until a certain point. Then they made it illegal.
Right.
So in the beginning years, we were doing a legal drug. Marijuana being illegal was completely ridiculous. You know,
to you?
To me. It was like, why? You know, you see people getting drunk and killing people in cars and getting in fights, and people are smoking pot. And we saw it as a war on the hippies and the alternative counterculture than really doing something wrong.
Okay. So you're buying a pound of pot, selling it, breaking it off, selling it. And then you said someone sold you a 50, what was it, 50?
No, they gave us a 50. Back then, they came in bales.
Okay.
And today they call them square groupers because a lot of times people threw them off the boats, and fishermen or people would find a square grouper, and they loved it because they'd take it, dry it, and make a lot of money. But anyways, it was 50-pound bale, and he wanted to just store it at my house.
Okay.
And he said, and by the way, if you sell any of this, you know, you can make $10 a pound and sell it. Well, the first 50-pound bale, we sold maybe half of it.
Okay.
Then the guy did it again, and at that time, we sold the whole 50-pound bale before he could even blink. And I remember showing my partner at the time, David Tobias, who's now the CEO of another publicly traded company in this sector. I go, look, David, and I had a little baby under the diapers. We had $1,000. All right, now, $1,000 back then is, you know, these are early $70.
Right.
It's probably close to like $100,000 today.
Wow.
Money doubles every 7 years. So that's how you can calculate it.
Okay.
And it was like a fortune.
Of course.
So we found our niche.
The light bulb go off?
Light bulb went off, and we said, this is what we're going to do. So we were partnering up, and we sold a lot of pot just as brokers and dealers.
Your partner was who again?
David Tobias.
David, was he a partner at this time, or did you both kind of go like, let's do this together?
He was always a partner. He's like my best friend since 6th grade.
Okay. I love it.
So
just all the shenanigans. So you guys kind of, the light bulb goes off as we both said, and you realize, first of all, there's a market for this.
Insatiable market.
Insatiable market for this. Do you, as far as pricing goes, are you pretty much fair across the board? Or did you guys...
No, there were certain rules and certain norms, okay? You mark it up $10 a pound.
Okay.
And back then, off the boat, there was $200 to $2.25, so we'd sell it for $10. Except for the people who would come down from Philadelphia and New York, we could actually sell it for $25 a pound more.
Love it.
So
I love it.
But that was the norm.
So you guys say, all right, let's do this. Where are you getting the weed from?
In the beginning, we were getting it from smugglers. There's a part that is a very important part.
Okay.
And a very relevant part. I decided I wanted to move back to the land this is the 60s. This is part of the back to the land movement, right? We grow all our own food.
Right.
So I moved to Arkansas on 40 acres, and David inherits the business. I said, David, we're owed $30,000. Send me half. You keep the rest, and you keep all of our customers and suppliers.
Okay.
So it didn't work in living out in the woods. I think he sent me $20 because, some people don't get paid.
Yeah.
But 3 months later, the Back to the Land movement for Bruce Perlowin didn't work because I couldn't afford. I was chopping. I'm a high performance athlete at that point, right? I'm chopping wood and trimming trees for a living, and then coming home and fixing up the house in exchange for rent. And after 3 months of this, and my brother-in-law not helping really do anything, I moved back to Florida to sell pot.
Okay.
All right. That's when we're now doing thousands of pounds. David got a new partner.
Okay.
And I partnered up with somebody else, and I sold to him. He sold to me. Because back then you'd make $100,000 a week if you're making a dime. You're either offloading someone's load, you're bringing in your own loads because you eventually learn to do that, or you're selling someone's load.
Okay.
And there's always giant loads coming in.
So are you at this point though? Are you selling or are you smuggling?
At this point, I'm selling, and then I started little by little to offload. Because if you have a freighter offshore and you had a speedboat, you can offload them for between 10 and 25%. So I became an offloader. I started buying my own boats. So the speedboats for short runs, and fishing boats were for longer runs.
Okay.
So I'd get a call in the middle of the night. My freighters, like last night, I got a call. Guy got 200,000 acres that he wants us to come harvest. No, I'm sorry, 2,000 acres. And I'm thinking, 2,000 acres, does he have any idea how many millions, or at least hundreds of thousands of square feet it's going to cost to grow that? And where is your planning? So the same thing happened back then. The freighter's broken down. The boats didn't get there. They couldn't find it. I needed two pieces of information: how far and how much weight. If it was too far away, I would use my fishing boats. If it was close inshore, like 3 miles in international territory, I'd use the speedboats.
Wow. And
so from the offloading, I then began, and sometimes I would broker an offload to other guys that have boats. We all sort of worked together because there was no conspiracy where people could just tell on you back then. They had to catch you red-handed.
Gotcha.
Right? But so we all worked as a team, and we all worked as a group, and it worked very efficiently and very effectively, similar to what we're trying to do here in Oregon, is get everybody working together. And we're actually, unbelievably, because I work in a lot of areas of the country, this seems to be coming together as a unified, cohesive whole as an industry in the Rogue Valley.
regarding hemp.
Regarding hemp.
Okay. So at this time, you're smuggling the drug into the States or you're smuggling it out?
No, I'm smuggling into the United States. First I was offloading. And at a certain point, I said to the smugglers, look, I'm offloading for you. I'm also selling the load, so I'm getting my 10 to 25%. And sometimes I'd hire you, and I'd pay you 10%, and I charge the smuggler 25%, so I'd pick up 15% in between. And the key was to get the whole load to sell because you made $10 a pound on the whole load. And so I said, I want to be a partner. So they said, fine. So now I'm going down to Colombia, meeting Colombians.
Whoa.
And partnering up with the smugglers in Florida.
Okay. Who are you meeting in Colombia? Like, who are some big names that you're meeting?
Oh, nobody. The guy I work with, we just nicknamed him. His name was Gustavo, but we nicknamed him Mike. And he wasn't like Escobar or any of those big giant cartels. Those are the cocaine guys.
Yeah.
What I was basically working with was farmers. I was working with farmers, and I was working with the broker to the farmer. And it's really interesting because you go down there and they have a whole bunch of bodyguards following you everywhere because they don't want, no one's going to hurt you in the marijuana business, but they don't want the next guy to steal their connection. Because we didn't realize how valuable we were to them as the American sales force.
I see.
And they were incredibly valuable to us. So it was a really good symbiotic relationship.
It's so funny you're telling the story, and all I can think about is the movie Blow with Johnny Depp.
I hired George when he got out of prison, by the way. And I gave him a lot of money.
Stop! Wait, hold on. Time out. George, who is
George
Johnny
Young.
Depp's
The
character.
real George Young. You see these pants I'm wearing?
Yeah.
And you see this shirt?
Yeah.
Okay. It's made by a company called Hemp, my ex-girlfriend. And when George got out of prison, first of all, I gave him 10 grand.
Okay.
I said, George, go fix your teeth. All right. And then we gave him another 10 grand. He bought a car that he gave to his daughter. Okay.
Nice.
Then my ex-girlfriend, who made these hemp blue clothes, right? Hemp denim jeans, hemp shirts, was one of the top designer in Los Angeles. And he hired him to be a spokesman for him. We got him a car. She rented him a car. She rented him a condo. It's like the brotherhood of smugglers sticking together and helping each other out.
God, this is so awesome. So you're smuggling marijuana into the States. Are you just like making serious cash at this point in life?
Yeah.
Like how much?
Well, in Florida, I did really good. But when I really did good is when I didn't like the cocaine cowboys and the shoot. We didn't have guns. We were peaceful hippies smuggling marijuana. We didn't have flashy cars. We didn't have gold jewelry. And we didn't have guns. And we didn't shoot each other. But when the cocaine cowboys reared their ugly head and started really wreaking havoc in South Florida, I didn't like it. It was violent. I moved to California. I moved my whole organization to California, pioneered a new smuggling route from the west coast of Colombia, which most people didn't even know there was a west coast of Colombia, to the west coast of the United States, and brought my boats, a fleet of boats. As the newspaper said, I had a fleet of boats larger than most countries' navies, underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and still remain.
How many boats did you have?
About 97 boats.
Oh my gosh, that you owned.
That I owned. Everything from 24-foot speedboats to 150-foot Mickey tugboats. 85. My main staple of boats was 65 steel albacore boats. That was the main boat, and you didn't have to offload in those. You can go all the way down. We would go down to Costa Rica, wait until the pot. And we were competing against California Homegrown, which was still, back then, a very strong, better pot than anything grown in Colombia.
Really?
So we flew what's called Punta Rojo, or Red Bud. We would overfly 3 mountain ranges, drop it on the beach, hired the entire village to go and collect it and store it. When enough was there, like usually 30,000 pounds.
In Colombia?
In Colombia.
Okay.
The boat would then leave from Costa Rica, where it was waiting and being refueled and reprovisioned, dip down to Colombia, and then come back underneath the Golden Gate Bridge to a 1,000-foot concrete pier, which was one of the best offload spots I've ever saw in America. We brought in See, what we did the same thing I'm doing now. We built infrastructure first. Got the boats, got the speedboats, we tracked every Coast Guard boat in the 800,000 square miles of the Pacific Basin. We had $1 million worth of electronic equipment up on Skyline Boulevard so we can track them and we can listen to them. We knew who they were following. We tapped all their frequencies, the DEA and FBI and Coast Guard, and we just listened to see if they were following or watching us.
Were they ever?
No. And
Crazy.
finally, so we built that infrastructure in California, and I knocked it out apart. So how much did I make? I did $1 billion worth of business in my 20s, and I made $100 million in my 20s doing that.
Oh my gosh. That's insane. But I mean, listening to you, you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, you build infrastructure first, and then you just knock it out of the park. We bought boatload after boatload after boatload. It was just automatic routine. Same thing I'm doing now. Building infrastructure first, and this is the first year.
But legal.
But it's all legal, which is amazing to me. And I'm actually selling, now people are smoking hemp, so we're positioning ourselves on high-end smokables. And I feel like I'm doing it all over again, selling nickel bags, dime bags, ounces, and pre-rolls.
Insane. So you bring this fleet to the West Coast, and you're still getting your weed from Colombia.
Yes.
You're bringing it into the United States. Are you selling it, or do you have people selling it?
No, everybody was always fighting for who would get to sell the load. So I had like my partners, which one was a PhD in physics and a professor in the University of Ann Arbor, Michigan, or University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He was actually a teacher, and his brother who owned the bookstore. So Fred and Ned were my partners.
Fred and Ned?
Yeah, Fred and Ned, sure. Unfortunately, they both died of, old age,
But they were your partners at the time.
They were my partners. Remember, we're like the intelligenistas and the entrepreneurs.
Yes. Yeah,
So
Fred and Ned and Bruce.
So you got a PhD and Ned's bookstore. All right, so they sold all the books to the college kids, and then you return it and you buy them used, that model. And they were my partners. And I got 25% for doing the offload, and then we split the rest, 50-50.
Okay.
So we would offload a boat. I could offload a boat in 47 minutes. I would have that boat, 43 minutes. I would have that boat refueled, the 2 speedboats gone, the 2 trucks gone, everybody off the dock, the surveillance yacht back, I was in the middle of the bay watching everything, and all my lookouts all over, all gone in 57 minutes, in less than 1 hour.
Wow.
It was like a crack military operation.
Yeah.
And everything be gone except for one guy who would stay until the light to make sure there's no buds on the the dock. We would drive it to our stash houses, 2 or 3 different stash houses. We'd work all night without sleeping, packing it up, putting it in the vans. First light, because you don't want to be out in 3 or 4 in the morning with truckfuls of marijuana.
No,
you want to
highly suspicious.
Right. The only one out, we used to say the only one out are the cops and the criminals. At 3 in the morning.
That's so true. That's still true.
So we'd wait till the normal traffic patterns, and everything would be gone. 21 days later, we fronted everything. We never ever, there was no money up front like there is today. Everything was fronted. 3 weeks later, everybody was paid off. The whole load was done. The Colombians were paid, and I used to try and have 3 or 4, actually 4 loads going at all times.
Okay.
So either a boat was going down, one was coming up, one was in Costa Rica, and one was getting ready to go.
So it's just constant.
Yeah.
How long are you doing this for?
About 4 years, between 3 and 4 years before I finally got busted.
How did you get busted?
Fred and Ned got busted on separate case.
Dang it, Fred and Ned.
And they squealed.
They squealed on you?
Yeah.
Well, man.
And I no. And then the guys that were laundering my money all over the world out of Florida, they got busted on a separate case, and they squealed on me.
So at this point, though, are law enforcement, DEA, FBI, are they just like, who is Bruce? I mean, were you...
They were sort of looking because in the CNBC documentary, which is the most watched documentary in CNBC history, which I was in a 10-minute segment on, 23 million people watched it the first time it aired. All right,
this is on what? The
CNBC documentary called "Marijuana Inside America's Pot Industry."
Okay.
All right, and I was a 10-minute segment. They wanted to film me about my smuggling operation.
Of course.
They were covering the Emerald Triangle,
right.
And I was living in Ukiah, so I was the smuggler of that era. And so, but they didn't expect 23 million people to watch it the first night. And they just aired it over and over and over again. So most people in the industry know me because they saw me in that documentary. It's like 11 years old now, that documentary.
Right. I'm just picturing, though, that, this operation is going on. Do they have a clue of how big it is?
In that documentary, what I went to do, they said I left my notebook in the Denny's restaurant, and they turned that over to the FBI. Now, the notebook is not what busted me. It was just a bunch of coded things that looks like somebody's selling a lot of pounds. There's no names. But if you looked at it, it's somebody selling a lot of weight here. It was just one trip. So, but they can't say we busted them for snitches. That's against their rule. They can never say it. So they blamed it on the notebook. It makes a better story, anyways. That
it does. Yeah.
I left my notebook in there.
Right.
And but that's not how it happened. The notebook. So they knew that there was a big smuggler. They had 2 separate investigations going on. One in Florida for the money laundering guys, and one in California and out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, with Fred and Ned.
Right.
And they didn't know they had like 125 agents investigating the Perlowin organization, and then they realized it's just one giant organization.
Wow.
And so finally, with them cooperating, and then little by little, they would go to somebody and say, look, you're going to go to jail for 10 years or for life if you don't cooperate. And it ended up being about 125 people cooperating against me.
Wow.
And then it came to me. Are you going to cooperate? I could have literally walked out of jail, kept my multi-million-dollar house in Ukiah, kept a certain amount of money, had to give up the docks and the planes and the boats and stuff. And I wouldn't do it. And I said no. And my wife at the time said, your son is going to grow up without you. And I said, that does not give me the right to have 100 sons grow up without 100 fathers. I did the crime, I'll do the time. It wasn't a mafia code of honor. It was my code. My code is, if you work for me, I'm not going to rat you out.
Wow.
And I did my time.
So, were you upset with Ned and Fred?
No, I was not upset. Because anyone who says, I thought it was very hypocritical, because when you're in prison, all the rats never admit they're rats, and they always say, oh, that guy's a rat. All right? Nobody knows what they're going to do, because it was really weird. The people I thought would never talk did, and the people I thought would talk didn't. So you never can tell what's going to happen at that moment, and I don't think I have the right to judge them. I liked them to the day they passed away. I thought they were great guys, and just because they rolled over on people, maybe John Doe would, or maybe this guy would. You don't know. What if his mother's dying and they don't want to see their mother? They don't want to disappear and go to jail with their mother. Or maybe they have kids and maybe they're bonded to their kids, a lot more than maybe I was. Mm-hmm. But I don't blame people for that. I think it's the wrong thing to do. I don't think it's right. But I'm not one of these guys that judges and say, "Oh, you ratted out."
It's very ethical.
Yeah,
quite ethical.
I always liked them.
So you were married at the time you got arrested.
Sort of. I mean, Becky and I were like husband and wife, mm-hmm. and we had a baby together. Mm-hmm. I delivered my baby at home.
Nice. Did she know about this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of have to, right?
Yeah. No, she knew what we were doing, and she's a great mother, a great person, and then when I left, we were sort of splitting up. Mm-hmm. You don't run that kind of a business and focus on it all the time, and a wife usually wants your attention at home.
A little bit.
Not being a lunatic marketing guy, always smuggling, never stopping, constantly expanding.
Yeah.
So
she was probably a little tired of you.
Yeah, she was. And at this point, I realized I make a horrible boyfriend and a horrible husband because I'm married to my work. And, I have 2 great kids. I work with both my sons. They're both in the business.
How old was your kiddo when you got arrested?
The youngest one had just turned 2. It was his second birthday. Well, that's when I was arrested, but that was for a trial that I went for a Miami smuggle, which I ended up getting probation.
Okay.
I actually went to court and got probation, and then, no, I got a hung jury, and then rather than go to court a second time, I pled guilty because they gave me 30 months probation, and I went back to smuggling pot on the West Coast.
So, when you were arrested, though, was it a big show, or?
It was a big show.
Ooh, let's talk about it. What happened? Do you remember the day?
No, because I got arrested twice. Once for the fugitive from Florida, then the second time for the big smuggle in California.
Did you know they were coming after you?
I saw indications of it.
Okay.
I didn't know that Fred and Ned had rolled over. I didn't know that Charlie in Florida, who laundered my money all over the world, had rolled over. They keep it pretty quiet. They're pretty sneaky.
Yeah.
And good at what they do, just like I was good at what I do.
Sure.
And, the headlines, FBI swoops down on Perlowin again, and they found like $250,000 of silver coins in my basement.
Oh, man.
And so now it was like, they called it an armed fortress. It wasn't an armed fortress.
Your house?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it sort of was an armed fortress, but it was a beautiful home. I spent $3,019,080 fixing it up. I'm buying it back.
Are you really?
A grower actually bought it to sell back to me because he knew it was mine, and he knew the story, and he knew I delivered my son there. So after the harvest this year, I'm buying my Ukiah house back.
I love that.
And we'll do one of my Veteran Village Kins communities or Abused Women and Children's Kins communities in Lake County is what my plan is, because we plan to expand these hemp growing communities that I'm building all over America.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, congratulations on buying that house back. So let's talk about the day you were arrested. Where were you?
I was actually, one of my friends met me. He said, "Bruce, you're really out of control. You need to start doing yoga." Okay. And this guy, he's in the seed business now, Ventura Seeds. If anyone wants some good seeds, I recommend Ventura Seeds.
There you go.
Okay. So anyways, Al says to me, Al Ellis, he goes, "Bruce, you need to start doing yoga." And he introduces me to Yogi Bhajan. All right, now that's the Kundalini Yoga group. They were the turbans, and they do Kundalini Yoga, and they're all vegetarians. They're very, very healthy.
Okay.
And he goes, if you go to a white yoga tantric course, which is a yoga course where the men line up and the women line up, and you do these really sort of hard exercises. He goes, it's worth 10 years of meditation.
Wow.
I go, wow, I'm in. So I went to every single white yoga tantra course that Yogi Bhajan did. Where I went, Alaska, Amsterdam, wherever it was, Canada, Mexico City, and I was on my way to my 16th white yoga tantra course when I got busted, and I was busted in Chicago on my way somewhere. I forget where it was, but it was, Chicago was the layover. They walked on the plane. They never drew guns. They said, "Are you Bruce Perlowin?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, you're under arrest with the FBI and IRS, and there's arrests being made all over the country right now, and in an effort to get me to get scared and get talked." And I said, okay, good. I get to go to jail and meditate for 10 years.
No way. That's so funny. So there was a trial.
No. What happened In that particular case, I was on $5 million bail. I was not going to bail out like I did the first time. And I had 125 people testifying against me.
Oh, man.
And so I said, okay, I will not go to trial and cost the government a lot of money, and I will forfeit, I'll give up assets. I will not give up people. And in my deal, in my plea agreement, I said, but this is what I want, to not go to trial. Because, they can always lose a trial, although it was unlikely with 125 people on their side. I said, I want you to not prosecute my brother. They go, we're okay with that because he would never have done this if it wasn't for Big Brother being involved. And I don't want you to prosecute my wife, because they were going to charge her. And they said, we can live with that. And one of my guys, I said, I want him they had him 4 counts of smuggling. I said, I couldn't cut him off. They wouldn't. They said, no, we can't not prosecute him.
Okay.
I said, well, just give him 1 charge then. And they said, and that was 1 5-year charge, which you do 3 years or something. So they agreed to that. And then you could have all the assets. And they got everything, You're
like the nicest smuggler on the planet.
I'm the nicest guy, one of the nicest guys on the planet. I've given away $25 million of my stock to nonprofits.
Aw, that's so nice.
I still do this today. The real Patch Adams, who's building a free hospital in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm his largest donor. Keepers of the Wild, largest wildlife sanctuary, I'm their largest donor. Michael Beckwith, the guy who was in The Secret, I'm one of his largest donors. Daniel Brinkley, 8,000 veterans died holding hands with one of his hospice leaders in veterans hospitals so they don't die alone. I'm his largest donor.
Why are you giving so much money away?
It wasn't money, it was stock.
Why are you giving so much stock away?
Well, if you want to change the world, you can't. Here's the rule, my rule.
Okay.
If you want to change the world, fund the people that are going to change the world.
So true.
Your job description just got 10,000 times easier. I don't know how to change the healthcare medical field. Patch Adams does. I don't know how to rescue tigers and bears and lions. Keepers of the Wild does.
Right.
And so in the beginning, I funded the people that were going to change the world, helped a lot of them. Now, the coup of all coups, or one of the coup of all coups, is last year, I gave Patch Adams on his land 1,200 clones. They grew the clones. They grew hemp. They sold it, made $50,000 to build a free hospital. This year, they're growing 3 acres.
Beautiful.
So we taught them how to fish.
That's amazing.
And they're actually growing the hemp.
Yeah.
And now hemp, see, to me, hemp has such a broad application. I say hemp I'm a marketing guy, so I make up things, marketing stories and marketing. So to me, hemp stands for Humanitarian Empowerment Monetary Program. We can use the money that we raise to hemp to make the Back to the Land movement emerge again and survive. We can have the small family farm emerge in America again because of hemp. And we can fund all the nonprofits.
I love it. So we're going to talk about that. I'm writing it down so I don't forget. Let's go back, though, to prison. You go to prison. Where do you go to prison?
In prison, I was in heaven. Okay. I go, finally, I get to rest? I get to rest. Not only do I get to rest, I never could go to college. I actually tried to go to Day Junior College in North Miami 7 times and couldn't afford it because I had a young wife and a new baby.
Okay.
I had to drop out. I ended up with 7 credits total out of 7 tries and go back to selling pot.
Right.
I didn't have the money to afford to go to college. Now I can go to college because they actually taught college in prison.
In prison.
I can read all the books. There was one.
What prison are you at?
Okay, well, I started off in county jail.
Okay.
And county jail sort of can be rough, but at that point I had long hair, long beard, and I would sit on my bunk and meditate and go, wahigudu, wahigudu, wahiju, wahigudu, wahigudu, 8 times on the exhale. And you're mostly with, a rough group in county jail. And they would say, we don't know who he is, we don't know what he is, but don't mess with that guy, he's going to voodoo you.
I love it. So you were just like, no one touched you.
No one touched me. And because I was a big smuggler and had newspaper articles about me, they respected me.
Nice.
Okay. So county jail for about a year.
Okay.
And finally I pled guilty because I realized, I wasn't going to win in trial. And then I went to Texarkana. And in Texarkana, it was all male. I found out there was co-ed prisons. And there was 4 of them in America from the one head of the Bureau of Prisons to try to experiment, and he implemented co-ed prisons.
Okay.
And the new head was reversing that. But there were still 2 of them left. I go, there's a co-ed prison? I go, well, where are they? And one was in Pleasanton, which is right near my home. So they're supposed to house you as close to home as possible so you can get visits from your family. And I was medium security, so
Okay.
I had to fit in medium security. And everyone, there was no other medium security facility because other people who had snitched on me, they got a little bit of time, 3 or 4 years. I got 15 years, of which I did 9. Back then you only did 2/3 your time. And so Pleasanton was available for me to go to because it was right near my home where Becky and my son
Okay.
Aubrey lived, or Reese lived. And so I got to go to a co-ed prison. I mean, it was hysterical. My best friends are spies, assassins, terrorists, hijackers, jewel thieves, bank robbers, smugglers, and that's just the women.
In fact, you met someone in prison.
Yes, I actually had a crush on the Puerto Rican terrorist, but she didn't like me. She liked Mikey, the other smuggler. And so the second person that I liked the most was Svetlana Ogorodnikova, who was the most watched 60 Minutes in the history of that show. She made the best of 60 Minutes for a decade of the 80s. Mike Walsh remembers 25 years of 60 Minutes and 35 years of 60 Minutes. She was convicted of espionage. She was a real Russian spy.
A real Russian spy.
A gorgeous real Russian spy.
And you guys were an item.
Yes, we were
Okay.
boyfriend and girlfriend.
In prison.
We were in prison. We got this. It was really hysterical in prison.
This doesn't even sound true, Bruce.
Oh, and I mean, I say assassin, the lady that tried and shoot Ford. She
was in the prison with you?
Yeah, Sarah J. Moore. She was in prison with us. Okay, Manan Sheila from the big Rajneeshpuram.
No
Manan
way!
Sheila was in prison with us. In fact, Manan Sheila married Svetlana and I because she was legally empowered as a minister of that religion to marry us.
This can't be true.
So we call ourselves the King and Spy.
I love it.
Because I'm the King of Pot and she was a Russian spy. And soon they'll be in front. That'll be one of the King of Hemp pre-rolls. I'm putting all the old smugglers on the pre-rolls that I'm launching because I want to give them royalties.
Oh, okay.
So
So,
the head
they're
of
going to
the
be
black-
getting some money,
Yeah,
potentially.
yeah. The guy from that's why I'm doing it. So I'm following. I made this story up, right? I'm following the Brotherhood of Marijuana Smugglers Handbook of Codes. Code number 1: no smuggler shall die broke.
Fantastic.
So I put the head of the Black Tuna Gang, the Daring Dashing Smith brothers, Billy Hayes from the movie Midnight Express.
Uh-huh.
So the first pre-roll will be the King of Hemp. The second one will be called Midnight Express, and Billy will get his residual. He was the guy that was arrested in Turkey. I don't know if you saw that movie. Yeah, you're a little bit young for that. It was a 40-year-old movie. It was Oliver Stone's first movie, by the way.
Okay. I've heard of it. I just haven't seen
Won
it.
2 Academy Awards. And
Yeah.
so what I didn't realize when I told all these guys I'm going to, because you go to prison, you come out, you're broke.
Yeah.
I was broke when I came out of prison. So were all of them. So was George. That's why we all tend to help each other. I mean, when I got out of prison, the Daring and Dashing Smith brothers, Darryl Smith, he loaned me $12,000 because my mom needed money. So we, it's like a brotherhood.
Yeah. Well, you helped George Young
Yeah.
when he got out of prison.
And I haven't told George yet. I called him, and I'm going to put him in the front cover because I want to make George money too. How
old is George now?
He's really old. He's like close to 80. He's like 10 years older than me.
Are you surprised that he's still around?
No, one of the things that happens in prison is it preserves you. You don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't do drugs, you don't go out all night. You tend to work out. I mean, Svetlana and I walked 10 miles every night, and that was not working out. That was walking 2.5 hours, 15 minutes a mile. Right? We walk 10 miles every single night.
Yeah, that's true. You really are taking care of your sleeping.
You're sleeping the same time, you eat the same time, you exercise the same time, you study. I got 5 college degrees, made straight A's, made the National Dean's List, the President's List. I made 1 B the entire time.
Wow.
And all A's. I read 100 books a year. I was in heaven.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And I got to, we're sneaking around trying to kiss each other, and the guards are sneaking around trying to catch us.
Love
so
it.
it's sort of
It's almost
funny.
like you're in college.
Yeah, it was like college.
I mean, without all the partying and whatnot, but
And then some incredible things happened, like the helicopter escape. One guy got out of prison. He came back, flew a helicopter, landed in the field, picked up his girlfriend, and flew off.
No
to
way.
the cheers of everybody in the prison except the police.
Did they get caught?
Yeah, they eventually got caught.
So I'm just curious, any other people in prison with you that listeners would know?
Oh, yeah. Well, the lady from the lady that caused all the killings in the cocaine cowboy wars was her Gazilda Blanco. Gazilda was with me, and Lana. I'm divorced from Lana, but I take care of her. You know,
So she's still around.
She's still around. She gets whatever she wants. She lives in a beautiful house. In fact, I'm gonna start teaching her how to grow hemp because they just made hemp legal in Arizona. So I'm gonna buy a greenhouse and show her how to grow hemp.
Okay.
So she'll have a good income. Although she had a good income when I left her.
Yeah.
But, anyways, so we had her, and she says, "Oh, she was a sweet lady." Lana, she had 200 people murdered. She's a sweet lady. She was a nice lady. Well, see, in prison, you're not drinking and snorting cocaine and doing quaaludes or what.
So your brain's straight.
Your brain's straight.
Yeah.
And she was a sweet lady.
Right.
You know, without all that other stuff.
So you get out of prison. What year is this when you get out?
I got out of. I'm not sure. I have to look at my bio. But it's somewhere around 85.
Okay. You and Lana are married.
Yeah, I actually waited 3 years for her to get out of prison.
Did you?
And then, you know, because she's my wife.
Yeah.
You know, and that's hard at that age, you know, but I'm a workaholic. So I started businesses. I started phone card business. The first time a retail store put their logo on a phone card was 7-Eleven. We did the original 7-Eleven phone card and about everything else in that industry, which has now came and went.
Right.
So I tend to be on the forefront of industries.
Yes.
You know, and if I'm not on the forefront, I pioneer a new part of the industry, like pioneer a new smuggling route from west coast of Colombia to west coast of the United States.
You call yourself a visionary.
I am a visionary, yes.
Yeah. So I know we're going to fast forward through a lot of stuff here, but when does hemp kind of come at you?
After the documentary, Don, the largest marijuana smuggler in West Coast history, that's why I never went to my head that I am a big smuggler, you know, and I got on TV, because he was so big. He was the largest marijuana smuggler in U.S. history, Don Steinberg. The book, The Underground Empire, is about him. He made me look like I was selling nickel bags at McDonald's. He was that big.
Wow.
So we partnered up. Okay. And we did phone cards together. We did international. That was GlobalCom 2000. Then we did international telecom together. That was One World Communication. And the third company, we were doing different things because my parole officer wouldn't let me move when he moved the company. So I had to stay in Northern California.
Right.
And he moved on. So he has a company called Club VivaNet selling debit cards at this time, which was public. So I go back to Florida to start working with him. They fly me out. We do the CNBC documentary. And all of a sudden, the phone's exploding.
Really?
Because medical marijuana is a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, 23 million people watched it, all right?
Right.
And so, and they kept airing it. They were airing it sometimes 3 times a day. And so he said, why don't we change the name from Club VivaNet to Marijuana Inc. or Medical Marijuana Inc. and get back into the industry? We'll do something. We won't touch the herb because they'll go after us. You know,
Right.
2 of America's largest marijuana smugglers doing the first publicly traded company.
They're watching you.
Yeah, they're not going to like that.
No.
So we asked our investors, because they didn't know, Don had never told them the background, his background. So we told them my background and Don's background. Says, what if we change the name to marijuana? And they got all excited about it. And I said to the guy, one investor, I go, Richard, why are you so excited? I know you gave the okay and we're going to do it. We're going to do a name change. And he goes, do you even breathe the word marijuana on the public company? He goes, your stock will go through the roof. He goes, they took a company public in Canada. Now, this is 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And maybe 16. And the guy got on national TV and he said what they were doing. They sold $32 million of stock in one day. So he was all for it, and that was why. He said, you're going to have a runaway stock if you do this. And sure enough, we were at 4 cents. We changed the name from Club VivaNet to Medical Marijuana Inc., became the first publicly traded company in that whole sector.
Yeah.
And we went from 4 cents all the way up to 69 cents.
Wow.
I thought that was normal. Because
No.
that's the phone card company grew that way. The One World Communications grew that way. Network marketing, I hold 5 world records. Network marketing grew that way. My marijuana organization grew that way. Everything I did grew that way. I didn't know how unusual that is, So, but we never got anywhere. We really couldn't get any grounding. We didn't know where to position ourselves. There was so much opportunity. And Don and I fought like cats and dogs.
Gotcha.
We really fought all the time about everything. And so, you got 2 kingpins. You got 2 alpha male primes. We're not alpha males. We run organizations of alpha males.
Right.
So 2 of us, I remember one time walk across the room, pointing at him, say, and then cussing and yelling at him. And he just looked at me and goes, I love it when you talk that way.
Awesome. That's so good.
So we finally sold that. We're going to actually fire him. The board of directors are going to fire him. And, but then we ended up, instead of doing that, we sold David Tobias, my best friend, right?
Yes.
Found a guy to buy the company. So he bought the company, and I started Hemp Inc., and that was about 11 years ago.
Okay. Why did you start Hemp Inc.?
I saw Hemp Inc., I'm a visionary, as the future.
Hemp. You saw hemp as the future.
Hemp is the future, yeah. What I saw back then, this is long before the word CBD was even in the vocabulary. I don't even think there was CBDs in the United States at the time, because the guy we sold it to brought the first batch of CBDs from China, and it was $100,000 a kilo for pure crystalline isolate.
Wow.
Right? That's how long ago this was. So, but I said, something, hemp plastics, just one of the 25,000 things you can make out of hemp is going to be bigger than all of medical marijuana and recreational marijuana put together. So I went into it thinking hemp plastics, hemp wood, hemp clothing, like I'm wearing a hemp shirt, I'm wearing hemp jeans, I'm wearing hemp shoes.
Your wallets.
My wallet's hemp, my business card's hemp paper. And think about the environmental impact.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
Let alone hemp is a superfood. You got hemp seeds, you have hemp protein, you have, hemp oil, and it also is healing. We launched a product line, and we have with hemp oil, and this stuff is incredible topically for scars and bruises. It's like this miracle plant.
We just did this story, and I interviewed you for it, and just thinking about all of this, it almost sounds like it's too good. This plant's too good to be true.
It is too good to be true, and you wonder why it's been illegal all these years.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
It is weird.
That the one plant that can solve probably a good 80% of the problems on this planet has been illegal all these years. We're all cannabinoid deficient. We didn't even know you had an endocannabinoid system until, 10 years ago, 9 years ago?
Yeah.
The guy won the some Nobel Prize for discovering that. So we're all deficient. So that's why CBDs work so good, is because we're missing a critical element. So it may not be the CBDs that are curing you. It may just be your body getting into harmony from this missing element. It used to be in the meat, because the chickens used to eat hemp seeds, and the cattle used to eat grazed on hemp. And probably the fish got it somehow, and birds got it. So we are so cannabinoid deficient. I really believe that when we become endocannabinoid fulfilled, we will become a more compassionate species.
Really?
I think it's a missing element.
You think it'll actually change brain function?
I do. I actually think it will change brain function. I mean, you think of some of the weird things. It mends bones quicker. I read a study about this. This is a scientific study. This isn't hearsay, because we read the studies. We're a public company. We have to get to the facts and know what's real science, what isn't real science. And you would think calcium, magnesium. But if an older woman falls down and breaks a bone, which is very common in the elderly, and I don't know why women but fall down more than men, but men fall down, break bones too, but women seem to do it more. CBDs will make the bones mend, and it'll be stronger than before the break. That's a real study. Okay, chickens. We were going to do this study ourselves, but then I think the Japanese did it.
Okay.
Beat us to it. If you feed hemp seeds to chicken, you're going to have more omega-3 fatty acids in the chicken egg. The chicken egg now is more healthy. So. And the fact that it was illegal, I believe, is just sort of like a overall symptom of the planet. I think we do everything perfectly in this world, perfectly backwards.
Well, if marijuana, cannabis, is illegal, and this is the cannabis plant, just the THC is low,
Right.
I mean, it makes sense that as humans, it's still, I mean, there's still a stigma with marijuana, with cannabis now, that people, even though it's legal and you can smoke it and you can buy it, I mean, there's still people who are like, ooh, I don't know.
There is still a lot of people that are like
lot.
that. And so I go back to my particular rule. If you want to change the world, you better make a lot of people a lot of money or it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny that the stigma changed so much after the 2018 Farm Bill made hemp legal. All of a sudden, farmers, they don't want to break the law as a group.
No.
And, my generation couldn't care less. We decided what we thought was right and what was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought marijuana was right and we thought that it was okay.
Sure.
And, and we thought back then, free sex was okay, whether even though it doesn't work, we tried it. Open marriages don't work, guys. Okay.
I mean, they work for some people.
They do. Yeah, there's all kinds of different subgroups and subcultures that work and make something work. But there is still this big stigma, though I just did read a study that the most used group of smoking marijuana cannabis, is 55 and older, my generation.
Really?
Well, let's take my ex-girlfriend and one of my personal assistants, or project managers, actually.
Mm-hmm.
They were both school teachers.
Uh-huh.
They quit smoking pot. Believe me, they smoked a lot of pot when we were growing up. I grew up with them since third grade, too. Third and sixth grade. And they didn't, they stopped. One stopped when she got pregnant and she didn't want to, she stopped everything.
Mm-hmm.
No more cocaine, no more quaaludes,
Mm-hmm.
no more pot. And then they became teachers, and they both didn't want to lose their job. And this is the same story with a lot of professions, from a truck driver to a worker in my generations. Well, guess what? We're all retired.
Mm-hmm.
So we're tending, and I thought that I was wondering if this was going to happen. Will we go back to our drug of choice, which is marijuana? And sure enough, both of those two retired teachers are now smoking pot.
Right.
Now they're smoking it at night before they go to bed because they're not quite used to this strong, incredibly powerful homegrown,
Sure.
and they're not used to wake and baking, and that's not what we do. It's very therapeutic,
Mm-hmm.
When you get 55 and older, that's when all of a sudden, you don't know this yet, Trish, but you got aches and pains coming.
Yes.
And you're going to get old.
No, the aches and pains are starting, believe me. So with Hemp Inc., what is your goal with this business?
It's pretty comprehensive. We have like 9 divisions. So we've built the largest hemp processing facility in the Western Hemisphere, and that's for industrial products.
Where is that?
That's in North Carolina, in
Okay.
Spring Hope, North Carolina. We literally, a decorticator. Decorticate means strip the bark off of the outside of a plant,
Okay.
and you use that for fiber.
Okay.
So we started to build that because CBDs didn't exist, and we were going to make hemp fiber.
Okay.
And then the center of the plant, we were going to use it for 2 things. When you grind it up to 20 mesh, it's a great oil spill cleanup. So they use that. The previous manufacturers use that in the Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico.
Interesting.
Now they wouldn't let them use it out there in the field. They dropped a chemical that made the oil go to the bottom of the ocean. The oil's still there. You just can't see it. But they used it at a wildlife preserve, and animals were literally rolling around in the canaf, and it was taking the oil off of their skin, and it saved a lot of animals because canaf has an enzyme that actually eats oil. So it makes a great oil spill cleanup.
Okay.
Then if we grind it a little bit further, the same canaf. Now canaf is a separate plant.
Okay.
So what we did, because hemp was not legal to grow in North Carolina when we started that plant. If I waited for legalization, I'd be too late. So we knew we'd add hemp to the formula now. So now we have a canaf hemp blend. The second thing is lost circulation material. When you grind it up to 200 to 325 mesh, you sell to the big oil companies. And what that means is when you drill a well, you have 3 things. You have a diamond tip oil bit.
Okay.
You have a lubricant that keeps that bit from burning up.
Yep.
And then when you drill through cracks and fissures in the earth, that lubricant leaks out, so you need a lost circulation material, or an LCM, to plug those cracks and fissures. Well, right now, the main LCM is a chemical concoction that they use to block those cracks and fissures. And if it happens to lead to an aquifer, we're now poisoning the aquifer way down in the, from
Yes.
100,000 to who knows how many feet deep in the earth. So we have the only natural alternative lost circulation material on the market, separate than one company in Indonesia that uses ground up bamboo. So those are the two products that we make there. And we just added a third one, which has now made me my own hero. Okay?
What's that?
We're grinding up the hemp herd that's coming in from Europe. Today it's coming in from Europe, but now we're growing 50 acres right next to the plant. All right? And we're grinding it up and we're selling it to another company that's making hemp bioplastics.
Hemp bioplastics, that's kind of what started all of this, right? Plastics?
Exactly. That's what was in my head. It was hemp bioplastics.
And now it's happening.
And now it's happening. So what happened with the decorticator was taking so long. The guy said it'll take 9 months and 1.2 million. $20 million and 3.5 years later, we still weren't done with the decorticator because we bought it, but we had to disassemble it, move it to a new location, reassemble it. So one day I said to him, what happens if we throw the whole canaf plant in the grinder and grind that up with the fiber in there? He said, I don't know. We never tried it. So we tried it and it worked. I said, stop building the decorticator. We're 90% done, but we have to make money and start grinding up the whole plant.
Okay.
So we grind up the whole plant with the fiber in it, and it works just as good as the lost circulation material. I'll now circle back around, finish the decorticator because I want to get hemp fiber going, and now we have a use for the herd for bioplastics that we want to grow in America and not have to import it from Europe.
Yes. And the hemp plastics are actually biodegradable.
They're completely 100% biodegradable. Now, we're selling it to a company that's making the pellets, and they'll sell it to a company with a mold to make straws or to make covers for iPhones or to make anything that's plastic. Plastics, too, you're never going to clean up the oceans. It's
Right.
never going to happen. You can pick up as many boats out there, clean up as many crews cleaning up the beaches until you stop feeding the oceans the plastic.
Yeah.
So the hemp bioplastics will eliminate that. And once I build it, because what's happening now, I see there's hemp wood now. There's a plant in Kentucky making hemp 2x4s. So I do eco villages. So I want to buy all their hemp 2x4s because I do eco villages to grow my hemp on.
Right.
And but the bioplastics is good. Once I'll do it, then the guys with trillions of dollars will come in and put in plants and say, wow, it's like the 4-minute mile, right? Nobody could break the 4-minute mile. One guy broke it after hundreds of years, and the next 2 years, 50 people broke it. So it's the same kind of thing. Once we demonstrate proof of concept, because we could use 50 plants like mine in North Carolina in this country, if not 5,000 of them.
Do you think you're changing the world?
Yes, I do. At this point, yes. If I died tomorrow, I would be happy with what I started with the Patch Adams and with the Keepers of the Wild and the Eco Village. That's that you can see the design. It's really there. It's not just an idea on paper. And we'll have live streaming video cameras up on that one so the whole world can see what we do. Yes, I do.
And you're changing it with hemp.
I'm changing it with hemp, absolutely.
That's pretty fascinating.
And it's not just me, by the way. It's us. It's all of us.
Right.
I have to tip my hat to all the activists out there, all the people, the lobbyists, the people that put on the shows, the expos, the farmers. It's the most incredible. And now we got all the billionaire hedge funds wanting to jump into the game, and the bankers, because there's so much money in it. So it's a really unique blend of what I call co-opetition. We're all working together, and everybody wants in this industry. It's the fastest growing industry on earth.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yes, I did, and I started the first company now. So because we were there, it would have happened without me. It just happened sooner.
Nice.
Because I was there. I set the example. Now there's 350 publicly traded companies.
And do you see, I think we're all sort of learning about hemp. A lot of us are learning more and more and more about it. Do you see this obviously, yes, it's one of the fastest growing industries, just taking off from here?
Yes, this year you're going to see a lot of tears, though.
How so?
60%. I thought 50%. It was my judgment, going all over America. But we had this incredible speaker, Peter's name, and I listened to him. He was probably the best speaker I've heard in 15 years, and he's a lobbyist. He goes to a lot more places than I go to. And his prediction, he says, I've never seen so many farmers plant something and have no clue how to harvest it.
Yikes.
And he said 60% of the crop will never go to harvest. I'll give you an example. A guy, okay, we're growing 40 acres. That's 1 million pounds, wet pounds, not dry pounds. But you got to hang 1 million pounds of biomass. And it's giant buildings, and we're making like a rack every 40 seconds. A rack is welded together. That's how fast we're making these racks.
Right.
Just to dry it. And this is only 40 acres. A guy calls me today, says, Bruce, I have 2,000 acres of hemp. I want to know if you can come harvest it for me. I'm thinking, where was your exit strategy or your end game when you planted that 2,000 acres? He'll be lucky to harvest 50, because I know how many buildings there are in Oregon, and there's not enough empty buildings to be able to build racking and heating to dry the stuff.
What's that phrase? We put the cart before the horse.
People just thought this is not like potatoes or sweet, or any other crop, corn, anything you grow. They think it's a weed. Yeah, the old hemp, the tall, skinny stuff that they make textiles with, is like a weed. But high CBD hemp is more like growing an orchid than growing a weed. So they didn't know, the guys that do know how to grow didn't know how to scale up.
Gotcha.
So we're going to have a lot of tiers, and we're going to have a lot of successes, and we're on a big learning curve, and that's why we've done...
And you said you got to do it to learn.
Yeah, and that's why we do the Hemp University, by the way.
Good.
Which we just finished the 9th Hemp University of 3 years. There's no real money in education. There a little bit, with sponsors and stuff, but it's more helping to build the infrastructure and educate people.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
You have to. It's a part of the deal.
We're going to wrap up. I feel like we could talk about hemp all day, because you're super passionate about it.
Yeah, I am.
Yes, I can tell. But I'm going to wrap up a little bit. I forgot to prep you on my final 3 questions. I do a final 3 questions, so we're just going to wing it.
Okay.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Best advice you've ever been given?
Never give up and follow your dreams.
Who gave you that advice? Do you know?
A whole series of people. I went to a lot of Tony Robbins stuff, a lot of, and that was part of the 60s culture, right? Is self-help, self-development.
For sure.
And, and I think it was Margaret Mead that said, never think that a small group of people cannot change the world, for in fact, that's the only ones that do.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that Albert Einstein said this: you can never find solutions to social problems from the same mindset that created the social problems in the first place. I'm clearly not the mindset of the establishment.
No, you are not. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. You don't live in Southern Oregon, right? We talked about this. You're kind of a vagabond right now.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of having I have my motorhome up here.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, so the question is, what I always ask people, because most of the people I interview live here, if you ever left this place, what would you miss the most? What would bring you back here? So let's pose it this way. What do you love about Southern Oregon?
The spiritual energy of Ashland and Neil Diamond Walsh. I love that guy.
Neil Diamond Walsh?
Yeah, he wrote the series of books called The Conversations with God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I think he is spot dead on right on everything he says.
Awesome. Okay. Good answer. My final question, if you were ever given a final meal and a final drink, what would that look like?
It would be chocolate with hemp seeds.
Okay.
Healthy chocolate with hemp seeds, infused with hemp oil and hemp seeds.
Okay.
Okay, would be the final meal.
That's it.
And a final drink would be, I guess, would be wheatgrass.
Wheatgrass. Very healthy, Bruce.
Because it may not be my final. If I drink that, it may not be my final meal.
Okay. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, chocolate with hemp seeds and wheatgrass. Cheers. Yeah. I love it. You've been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for doing this. I absolutely love your stories. And again, I think you probably have a lot of stories.
I get a lot. They keep on going.
Okay, I'm sure. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. You can also look for Off Script on Google Play and Stitcher. Check out the video portion at ktvl.com. Just click on features and then Off Script one more time. the king of pot, Bruce Perlowin. You're now the king of hemp, though, I think.
Yes, I am the king of hemp. I mean, at least I own the trademark, and we're going to be the #1 brand in pre-roll and hemp pre-rolls.
I love it. King of pot, king of hemp.
Well, I transitioned from the king of pot
Right.
to the king of hemp.
Because you don't smoke weed anymore.
Don't tell anyone the king of pot doesn't smoke pot. It's very embarrassing.
So embarrassing. All right, Bruce Perlowin. Thank
But
you.
I am going to start right before I go to bed because I know how healthy it is.
Awesome. Thank you for being here.